Breaking the Silence, In Search of Louisa, Act 4, Sentenced. The stage is dimly lit. The chairs remain around the table from the previous act. 3 small cradles now stand nearby, each holding a tiny baby blanket. The chair where Jedediah once sat is empty. A single church bell tolls softly. The narrator slowly walks to the table. There are moments in life when it feels as though you have finally found your footing. The tears have begun to dry. The children are laughing again. Hope quietly begins to return, and then suddenly everything changes again. That was Louisa's story. On December 1st, 1856, Jedediah Morgan Grant died. He was only 40 years old. His illness had come quickly. Within days, he was gone. 7 wives became 7 widows. A house once filled with anticipation was suddenly filled with mourning. But it wasn't only 7 women who lost someone they loved. 3 little boys lost their father. Louisa's precious son, Joshua Frederick Grant, was only 7 months old. Marietta's little boy, Brigham Frederick Grant, was only 6 weeks old. Rachel's tiny baby, Heber Jetty Grant, was only 9 days old. 3 mothers who had all carried 3 little boys in 3 pregnancies and had delivered them all within 7 months of one another, now tended 3 little cradles. I cannot help but wonder who rocked those babies to sleep after their father's funeral, who quietly wept while nursing them. Who looked into those innocent little faces, wondering how they would ever explain a father these boys never knew. History records the death date, the burial date, the funeral. A mother remembers the nights that followed. Little Joshua Frederick Grant would become my own great-great-grandfather, the only son that Louisa bore with Jedediah. Little Heber Jetty Grant would one day become president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But on that cold December day, they were simply little boys, too young to understand why everyone around them was crying. Life on the frontier did not allow grief to linger for long. Children still needed to be fed, and there were other children in that household. Clothing still needed to be mended. Bread still had to be baked. Someone still had to provide for all these families. Brigham Young faced a difficult question. What should become of Jedediah's widows? How could they survive? He asked several of Jedediah's widows to remain together and marry another Grant brother. His name was George Davis Grant. George had been a respected member of the church. He had been trusted. He had been a courageous pioneer. He had helped lead the rescue of the Willie and Martin handcart companies. The town of Grantsville, Utah, would one day bear his name. George already had wives: Elizabeth Wilson, Elizabeth Dubois, Magdalene Baxter, Jane Baxter. Then more chairs were added to his table. On February 16, 1858, Sarah Ann Thurston married George. Family records indicate that Louisa Marie Golay also became George's wife at about the same time. On February 17, 1858, Rachel Ridgway Ivins married him. Soon after, Marietta Kessler, Rosetta Robison, and Susan Fairchild Noble also entered the marriage. Once again, one family, one table, one man, many women trying to build a home. I have often wondered what Louisa hoped that day. Did she believe this marriage would finally bring stability for her children? Did she pray this would be the last beginning she would ever have to make? Sadly, that is not what happened. Something slowly changed within George. The dependable man everyone admired became increasingly troubled. Alcohol entered his life, then violence. One contemporary journal describes George attacking another man with such fury that witnesses believed he intended to kill him. The home that had promised security began to unravel almost as soon as it had begun. Years later, little Heber Jetty Grant had become a grown man, and looking back upon his mother's marriage to George, he wrote about Rachel. It was the one frightful ordeal of my mother's life, and the one thing she never wished to refer to. Every time I read those words, I stop, because if Rachel carried wounds that deep, what did Eliza carry? I've searched for the answer, and I still have not yet found it. Several of George's wives were eventually divorced from their marriage to George by Brigham Young. As for Louisa, I have not yet found documentation that tells me exactly what happened to her, but 4 of his wives were divorced on the same day. I do know this. Louisa had already buried 2 husbands. She had already buried 2 children. She had raised children through unimaginable uncertainty. And once again, she found herself walking a road she never would have chosen. Sometimes life feels less like a journey and more like a sentence to grief, a sentence to loneliness, a sentence to disappointment, a sentence handed down without ever asking if we ever felt prepared to bear that sentence. Perhaps that is why Louisa's story reaches so deeply into our own, because every one of us at some point has found ourselves living a chapter we never would have written. And yet somehow we kept going. We keep going. This next song is not only Louisa's story, it is the story of every heart that has ever whispered, "This is not the life I ever thought I would be living."
One whispered sentence spoken through my pain still trembles in the shadows like a low and gentle rain. One grieving moment, one exhausted breath could not hold the sacred beauty of my life before his death. A lifetime full of longing, a heart that yearned to be set free from this lonely sentence spoken in my agony. Before you pass your judgment, before you close my case, will you hold my story softly, not only my last phrase? Did you feel the tears I buried? Did you walk the road I knew? Did by unkind judgments, one sorrow-filled goodbye. Yet underneath all the rumors, the deeper truth survives. If mercy writes the ending, let kindness be your speech. See the woman who kept reaching the love she ached to keep. Heaven knows my journey, heaven knows my joyful years. Heaven knows when my laughter turned to silence, sadness, tears. God knows all the verses of my story. He sees what others missed. His hands hold every chapter, every heartache, broken wish. If every soul were judged by a sentence breathed in deep despair, who among us could bow in heaven without compassion there? Would you want your final heartbeat to speak in your memory? Or would you pray that His grace would rewrite your story? I've been sentenced by unkind judgments, but heaven soothed my pain. Love has slowly settled, peace is my refrain. So when you speak my name, let tenderness be shown. The jury is in His hands. He's healed all the pains I've known. Let harsh words turn to mercy. He's hushed now what was sentenced. He's blotted out the bitterness through the gift of sweet repentance. Only He alone knows all the verses of my story.